will move it down like that. Put it up on your shoulder. You got chocolate on you? Okay, up on your shoulder. Good. And then move over that way a little bit. Your chair. So we're going to do Hark in the First Noel. And then we're going to wait and do this one. And you're going to have the intro for this one here.
Good morning. Welcome to Bellingham Unitarian Fellowship. I'm Reverend Paul Beckel. All who come in the spirit of goodwill are welcome here. Welcome in person, welcome on Zoom. But it's not always so easy to conjure up goodwill in the face of the ups and downs and uncertainties we're experiencing in the news, in the weather, in the real joy, and in painful expectations of joy that can come with the holiday season. This morning, I invite you to reflect on the spirit of generosity, a spirit we can embody even as we experience a wide range of emotions, from effusive gaiety to seriousness and stillness. So thank you for coming together to be here for one another as we roll with the ups and downs, the sideways turns, and the inward meditations.
This morning we celebrate the spirit of generosity through words, music, song, and coming together as community. As a celebrant, I've had over a month to contemplate and consider what spirit of generosity means to me personally. It's been a very enriching month with its ups and downs. I suspect, like many of you, when I hear the word generous or generosity, I immediately think of giving things, material things given to one another, exchanged, things like presents, giving food to the hungry, giving shelter to the homeless, giving money to campaigns, giving of time and talents, all very worthwhile things to do. And yet I know, as you all do, that generosity means a lot more than that. Behind the acts of generosity we perform lies some type of motivation. The challenge to me was, what's that motivation? Give till it hurts? Give because you know that's the right thing to do? Give because if you don't give, you're not going to get? Give because of the karma? Or give because that's what's expected of you? For me, I'm learning that motivation is recognizing that this life I've been given, we've all been given, is the actualization or the manifestation, if you will, of the spirit of generosity. Having done nothing to deserve it, we are bestowed with this precious thing called life. We live in a world of abundance, in a universe of abundance. Here we find ourselves among the expressions with the air that we breathe, to the ground that we walk on, to the flora and fauna that surrounds us, all working together to nurture life, to nurture and support existence. For me, the spirit of generosity is that innate compulsion to support others, to support living things, and to live in a way that benefits all things. In my life, the expression of that spirit looks a particular way because I'm a particular person. And for each of you, there's a particular way that you express that generosity of spirit. And the beauty of it is that we can always grow in that expression by consciously choosing to live a life from the spirit of generosity within your particular circumstances. I believe strongly that it takes inner work, getting to know yourself deeply, understanding your motivations, making a commitment, and being in a community like this that supports and encourages that inner and outer work. So as Paul lights the chalice this morning, I encourage you to begin to examine more closely what the spirit of generosity means to you, and to honor that impulse, that compulsion to care for all living things, to act in ways that may always be of benefit to get to others without the burden of self-incrimination. I think that's important because you're not doing it right, but you are if you're coming from the very source of generosity. You come with joy and compassion that being alive stirs within you. And now would you join me for the covenant, to recite our covenant. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service gives it life. Celebrating our diversity and joined by a quest for truth, we work for peace and honor all creation.
Thank you, Pam, and will you all now stand and sing with me? In the Silence, which is at the very back of your hymnal. And if it's not in yours, we have extra copies that we would like to paste in all of them. So if you have one without In the Silence in the back page, please bring it up and set it on the piano afterward so we can improve that.
In the silence that has fallen, brothers, sisters, come to see. And our spirits are
Unbroken, sheltered in love's mystery. Come what may in these dark days, all our hearts are standing still. Love will shine again upon us, and our dreams of peace fulfill. All the troubles that delude us, things that I can barely say, could not survive unspoken. Without breath it fades away. Come what may in these dark days, all our hearts are standing still. Will shine again upon us, and our dreams of peace fulfill. If our hearts could burn like fire, if our voices be the wind, we would give what all desire, freedom, joy, and peace within. Come what may in these dark days, all our hearts are standing still. Love will shine again upon us, and our dream of peace fulfill. We won't fear the tyrant's anger, fear will never win our hearts. We will not be silenced ever, ere the King his throne departs. Come what may in these dark days, all our hearts are standing still. Love will shine again upon us, and our dream of peace fulfill. Thank you, Kevin. And now we have something for the younger set.
All right, does this work? You kids remember when the Dust Bowl happened? Sure. We'll have to back up a little bit. That happened a while ago, or as my daughter Marta likes to say, the 80s. But there was a singer that lived throughout that time. It was a really hard time. His name was Woody Guthrie. And this song isn't by him, but he had a saying that inspired this song called keeping your hoping machine going. So there's a modern day duo called the Okie Dokie Brothers. They're really great. I'd really advise parents or adults alike to check out their stuff. But they wrote this song called Hope Machine, inspired by Woody Guthrie's saying of keeping your hoping machine going. And it's a little song that, offers some advice in tough times.
she doesn't want to be set down. Every day I jump out of bed, splash of water all over my head, brush up my teeth, and make sure my ears are clean. These days you gotta be strong, so I do a push-up and sing a song. I pick on the guitar and stamp on the tambourine. Always good to change my socks, know the tools in my toolbox. Learn people good, but learn myself the best. Don't get lonesome, stay glad, take a bath, wear some plaid, work when I can work, but don't forget to rest. Dream good all night long, rise up and sing your song. They say life is hard and they're not wrong, so keep your hope machine running strong. Ideal lady, ideal lady, ideal lady. Plan what you can plan, dance when you can laugh at yourself and make up your own jokes. A little bit of fun, a little bit of growth, hopefully a little bit of both. Love your mom, love your pa, and love all kinds of folks. Talk quiet and listen loud, teach humble and learn proud. Scuffle with the struggle and wrestle with the pain. Open homes, open blinds, open hearts, open minds. Let in the sunshine, let in the rain. Dream big all night long, rise up and sing your song. They say life is hard and they're not wrong, so keep that hope machine running strong. Yeah, keep that hope machine running strong. Ideal lady, ideal lady, ideal lady.
Our kids out to the classrooms.
We hold you in our love as you go. In your heart be at peace as you go. To nurture the spark of your precious life. We hold you in our love as you go. We hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go. To nurture the spark of your precious life. We hold you in our love as you go.
Couple of quick announcements. I want to invite you after the service today to a potluck lunch downstairs. Please come, even if you didn't bring anything. There's always enough, and there's always next time, but come. As the potluck ends, we're going to begin a meeting, a conversation among ourselves, an informal beginning to the conversation that will lead to the congregation deciding on what its budget is going to be for the next fiscal year. This is a long lead-up time because we have a lot of challenging decisions to make. So I really hope you could be there for that conversation and give us your input on that. Tomorrow night, Taizé at 7 p.m. here in the sanctuary and on Zoom. The meeting number is in your order of service, as is the information about the upcoming Sundays, the last one in December being a service in which we're inviting members and friends to bring with them, let us know in advance what you would like to share, music, art, poetry of your own to help usher in the new year.
And now, if you'll join me in a meditation, take a breath, follow that breath, and let everything else go. Close your eyes if you're comfortable, and be here now. These are words from Thich Nhat Hanh, a Vietnamese Buddhist monk and activist. In Vietnam, there are many people called boat people who leave the country in small boats. Often the boats are caught in rough seas or storms. The people may panic and the boats can sink. But even if one person aboard can remain calm, lucid, knowing what to do and what not to do, he or she can help the boat survive. His or her expression, face, voice, communicates clarity and calmness, and people have trust in that person, that voice. They will listen to what he or she says. One such person can save the lives of many. Our world is something like that small boat. Compared with the cosmos, our planet is a very, very small boat. We are about to panic because our situation is no better than the situation of that small boat in the sea. You know that we have the capacity to destroy one another. Humankind has become a very dangerous species. We need people who can sit still and be able to smile, who can walk peacefully. We need people like that in order to save us. Mahayana Buddhism says that you are that person, that each of us is that person. My own reflection on that meditation is to ask myself, how will I respond as our boat gets tossed and turned? Do I have a practice that provides an opportunity for me to be present to the moment, to be with whatever shows up, to be grounded in the spirit of generosity, so that amidst my lack, I can still be available to comfort and calm, to create a positive influence for the outcomes, away from panic, mob mentality, chaos, and fear. Can I welcome the unwelcome with the spirit of generosity?
Thank you, Pam. That's a great point you said, from our own lack. I like that you put it that way, because we also preach about giving from our abundance, but from our own lack, our place of imperfection or need, that we can also hold forth a spirit of generosity toward one another, which flows very well into what we do periodically here called milestones, in which we invite people to share, please, in one sentence, something going on in your life that could be very sad, could be very happy, could be very complex, but you know that within the spirit of beloved community, you will be supported in all of it. And then there are candles to light as well, or you can drop a stone in the water, or both. So I invite people to come up along here and let the line, if someone's standing here, the next person should be here, so that we can keep it moving.
One. First tooth.
I light a candle for my father who died October 1st, a man generous with his money, his time, and his love.
A candle of concern for my niece, Susanna, who had a sudden, surprising disruption in her work life.
I'd like to light a candle for my granddaughter, who was the adult in the room when this grandma had a little bit of a sadness, and my granddaughter was the one who gave me the hug, and I'd like to light a candle for her.
I'd like to light a candle for my sister Margot Margolis, who died last week on hospice. I don't know if any of you knew her. Margot lived here since the early 90s, but she was the one who invited me to Bellingham and said, "You'd like it here. There's a really good Unitarian church." So it's her reason that I'm here.
And I'm lighting a candle for my granddaughter who just got a new job where the old organization she was working for was closed. So we're happy about that. And for my own new home, which I'm pretty well installed in, and with great gratitude to friends who've helped.
I'd like to light a candle for thanks and happiness that our Thanksgiving that I hosted, which I was always nervous, came out very, very well with 30 of you wonderful people.
I'd like to light a candle for my 81-year-old sister-in-law who's going to have open heart surgery for a valve replacement.
I'd like to light a candle for my grandfather, Donald, who passed away earlier this year and was a wonderful, brilliant, funny grandfather to me and my brother, and just a great person all around, and I don't think anyone who knew him is ever going to forget him.
And I'd like to light a candle of gratitude. It'll take a sentence or two to explain that. I'm in the midst of therapy for cancer, and Barbara, in the midst of that, discovered that she had contracted malaria when we were in Africa last summer. Barbara is here today. She couldn't have been here yesterday. She didn't have the strength. And I am here and upright, and I am so grateful to be alive.
This is going to take more than a sentence too, Paul, but it's important. I was amazed when I received a note from Lydia Place that I was being awarded a Housing Hero Award, and that I'm getting the Heart of the Organization Award for this coming year. But I want to say that it's not just me. It's this congregation that has loyally supported Lydia Place from the beginning. Two of the founders were members of this congregation, and I felt like I was just carrying on the work. I was on the board for 14 years, and it's a real honor this year to go to Lydia Place to the Housing Heroes Awards and receive the award. So I thank all of you for your ongoing support and for supporting me and the organization for all these years.
I will light one more candle and drop a stone of passage into the water for all of the milestones, the joys and sorrows that remain in our heart that are maybe too tender to be expressed or even to be recognized. Oh, and I want to say one note about what Drew said is that she said this, I'll say it in other words, that one of the most important social justice actions that we can take as a congregation is simply to be here for each other so that we have strength to go out in the world and do things like that. They're so often a calm center for me.
Reverend Carlton Pearson died 2 Sundays ago. Bishop Pearson, as he was known within his evangelical movement, appeared on Unitarian Universalist radar about 20 years ago when he went through what he described as a profound awakening about the nature of God. Specifically, as he was viewing a late-night television program describing and showing hideous images from the Rwandan genocide, as he was starkly reminded of the hell on earth that so many live through and die within, Pearson came to the understanding that the God he worshiped, the God he preached, the God of love, well, it was still hard for him to understand how this God of love could allow so much suffering while we live, but he somehow knew that he would have to change his whole perspective, because at the very least, he could not keep warning his congregation about the suffering to come to them after they die as a consequence of inadequate faith in Christ. No, he could not say that because so many did not know Christ, could not have had an opportunity to do so. So how could a God of love do such an evil thing as to abandon them for eternity? So Pearson, a black preacher and rising star in an evangelical megachurch movement, spoke out wholeheartedly about eternal salvation for all people, everyone, whether they call themselves Christian or not, whether or not they lived lives of holiness and self-sacrifice. That wasn't for us to judge. God was smart enough to figure this out and loving enough to find a way for universal reconciliation in the end. Reverend Pearson was quickly abandoned by most of his 6,000 member congregation and by his peers around the country. The reason all of this showed up on UU radar is both because Pearson, while not referring to himself explicitly as a universalist, was essentially embracing an early form of the theology that led to our Universalist forebears in the 1700s to split from mainstream Christian denominations. Also, after Pearson's megachurch was foreclosed on, the remnant 1,000 or so began holding their services at the primarily white All Souls Unitarian Church of Tulsa. Over time, some programs of the two different congregations began to merge, and Pearson became an affiliated minister of All Souls. And 20 years later, the twists and turns of that experiment in racial and theological engagement and healing continue. Pearson's memorial service was held there on Thursday. As inheritors of the 18th century white colonial Universalist tradition, we Unitarian Universalists today have a variety of beliefs about the nature or existence of God, the nature or existence of an afterlife. But as a movement, we have no creed, that is, no expectation and no sense of need for everyone to believe the same thing. We have held on to the Universalist name, though, appropriately, because our mission of inclusion has not changed, even as the way we own and practice this has changed, in that our focus is now on justice and equality for everyone in the here and now. Fortunately, we have a lot of allies in this work: Christians, pagan, Jewish, Palestinian, Buddhist, atheist, and those who shirk all labels. It's fortunate we have many allies, because inclusion is not something to be done and then to be done with. Because although universalism is inherently generous in spirit, simply calling myself a universalist, putting on a button, by no means ensures that I will dwell every moment with my body, my brain, my heart, all operating in sync in a spirit of generosity. So I am grateful for you all, just as I trust you all to be there for one another. An ongoing stew of peers with all of our milestones and setbacks and diversions, striving together to create a culture of generosity, reminding me and holding me accountable and one another accountable to these gorgeous and challenging principles of inclusion, justice, and just simple hospitality. Maintaining a spirit of generosity as an individual is difficult when the larger culture pushes and pulls us in much less healthy directions. When our media environment is designed only to lead to judgment and panic and amp up our fears and badger us to obsess about things over which we have no control. So sometimes we have to start small. Will you read with me the words of Jewish theologian Martin Buber on the front cover of your order of service? Hospitality means primarily a creation of free space where the stranger can enter and become a friend instead of an enemy. Hospitality is not to change people, but to offer them a space where change can take place. It is not a method of making our God and our way the criteria of happiness, but the opening of an opportunity to others to find their God and their way.
There are so many ways to embody a spirit of generosity as individuals and in our emerging, evolving congregational culture. When it's hard to do alone as an individual, I encourage you and myself to think about how I might start small. And when we do have the strength of numbers as a congregation, well, here too, we can start small. In my announcement today, and pretty much every day when we have a potluck, I usually say, even if you didn't bring something today, please come. I have never heard a spontaneous amen or preach it, brother. But I think I feel a sense of affirmation coming from the pews. Even if you didn't bring something, please come. But then I continue, there is always enough. At which point I sometimes sense a little uncomfortable fidgeting and shuffling around in the pews. But enough is simply this, whatever it is we have to share. This is the spirit of the lights of Hanukkah, based in the story of endurance within the Jewish community, a story in which the Jewish Maccabees, survivors of war from centuries before the Common Era, wished to honor God by keeping a lamp in the temple burning for 8 days. And there was clearly not enough oil in the lamp or anywhere else to keep the light burning for 8 days. But that flame did not go out. In that case, mysteriously, the flame stayed lit without any input from the outside. And sometimes we don't know what outside source might it be that we get the spirit of generosity from. So, however we see that lamp burning, within or without, we don't need to name it. Sometimes we just need to be with it, let it fall within ourselves.
Have you been trying too hard? Have you been holding too tight? Have you been worrying too much lately, all night? Whatever we've lost, I think we gotta let it go. Let it fall like snow. Rain and leaves and snow and tears and stars, and that's not all, my friend. They all fall with confidence and grace. So let it fall, let it fall. Have you been caring too much how this one ends? You know it's not the kind of fight you lose or win. When you're down so low you feel the imprint of the ground on skin. look around, breathe in. 'Cause rain and leaves and snow and tears and stars, and that's not all, my friend. They all fall with confidence and grace. So let it fall, let it fall. 'Cause rain and leaves and snow and tears and stars, and that's not all, my friend. They all fall with confidence and grace. So let it fall, let it fall.
Thank you so much for your beautiful music. Retired U.S. Supreme Court Justice Sandra O'Connor died Friday. O'Connor, appointed by President Reagan, was often the swing vote in a divided court, voting 5-4 or 4-5. She often voted in unexpected ways, given her conservative credentials. She was not ideological, but known for careful legal analysis rather than political posturing. In principle, O'Connor was a fierce defender of women's equality. And in style, one observer noted that she just cut to the chase with the most cutting, relevant questions. She was so confident and eloquent. This reminds me of how moderation and keeping things in balance, being a calm center, is far from spinelessness. But neither is it rigidity. It's not about otherworldly theories or predetermined positions, but responsive to whatever is happening in the here and now, constantly rebalancing with confidence and grace. Peter Yarrow was the child of Ukrainian Jewish immigrants. He was a folk singer with Peter, Paul, and Mary, and a civil rights, anti-war activist and pacifist. He wrote a song we'll be singing later called Light One Candle. It's a Hanukkah song with themes of enduring light, but it's not just this one of quiet satisfaction. He wrote this song as a response to the war between Israel and Lebanon in 1982. And he sang it at an outdoor concert in Jerusalem while the war was going on, sang to a divided audience facing political complexity and immediate, direct, personal suffering. Sang about not being driven
by revenge. Now, this feels to me like an act of courage and generosity, saying hard things openly and with love. And I want to read a verse to you, but I'll crack up. So, Pam, will you just read that?
Light one candle for the strength that we need to never become our own foe. Light one candle for those who are suffering pain we learned so long ago. Light one candle for all we believe in. Let anger not tear us apart. Light one candle to bind us together with peace as the song in our heart.
And now will you read with me the words of Florida Scott Maxwell, which are also on the cover of the Order of Service. I wonder why love is so often equated with joy when it is everything else as well. Devastation, obsession, granting and receiving excessive value, and losing it again. It is recognition, often, of what you are not but might be. It sears and it heals. It is beyond pity and above law. It can seem like truth. Why is love equated with joy almost exclusively when it is everything else as well? How might we light a candle for all of it? We can start small. Prime the pump of a larger generosity of spirit. Nurture the spark in someone's precious life with a simple compliment or acknowledgement to someone who needs it. Not just an offhand, good job, or you're great, but something personal. And have you ever noticed that even with those who we're closest to and love the most, we can be impersonal? But something personal. Light a candle of honest observation and acknowledgement of a particular, lighting a candle in them with your words. Acknowledgement of this particular person at this particular time. I visited a congregation once that had a long wall with a banner that said, "Caught in the act." Our 7 principles were posted, along with hundreds, now this was a big church, hundreds of scraps of paper on which people had noted examples of others being caught in the act of fulfilling one of those principles. The kids were encouraged as well to write these up and paste them on the wall. And even as a visitor, it was so touching how it brought to life that culture of appreciation that I felt in there, the generosity of spirit that lived in them. Later this month, we will be celebrating the birth of a Jewish leader named Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus is still known today for what Reverend Carlton Pearson called the gospel of inclusion. He's also known for his great teaching stories, such as the one where he and his disciples were in the temple when a rich man came by and put money in the collection box for the poor. Then they noticed a homeless woman putting in her last penny. Jesus said, the person who put in the least actually gave the most. One thing that troubles me a little about that story is that they were watching and judging, but I think it's just a story revealing an important insight, part of an ongoing story, an ongoing exploration of what it means to be generous. 1,200 years later, another Jewish teacher, Maimonides, suggested that the different ways of giving can be described like going up a ladder of virtue, from least generous to most generous. Again, we can take that wrong, judging ourselves and others about where they might be on a ladder, or it can simply be taken as inspiration about when we're in our particular circumstances, when we may or may not be able to live on any of these ways, which he describes in order: to give reluctantly, grudgingly; 2, to give cheerfully, but not what is needed; 3, to give cheerfully and what is needed, but not until asked; 4, to give cheerfully what is needed, but giving face to face, so that the person... Now, this is really interesting because a moment ago I was saying it's so important to get close to someone to compliment them and do this particularly in that moment. I think Maimonides is making a good point when he says not face to face, because it's about, like, then they experience it as your gift. So he goes on, number 5, to give so the person who receives does know who you are, but you don't know who they are. To give, and then finally, or no, not finally, there's more. I was distracted because I was thinking again of what Drew was saying about Lydia Place. I think that was an example where the person knows who you are, or they may know, Lydia Place may know it come from Buff, but we certainly don't know of the battered women or families, whomever our contributions go to in that case. Anyway, moving on to number 6, to give in such a way that we know who we've given to, but they don't know who we are. 7, to give so that they don't know us and we don't know them. And finally, to do more than giving, to offer support, partnership, anything that prevents further need. Now, that might seem like a lot. So, start small. Know love, the whole of it. Know the devastation, the balm, the giving and receiving, and the letting go. Accept the things we cannot change. Change the things we can, starting small. Let it fall. The financial collection we take on Sundays is just one of the many, many ways that you might be caught in the act of fulfilling UU principles here and elsewhere. So I invite the ushers to come around, and Lisa and Emma are going to be leading us in a couple of songs.
They're going to play 3 carols, and they'll play it through once. We'll listen, and then we'll sing the first verse of that carol. When they repeat it, then they'll move on to the next one.
so interesting singing through lyrics that I might not have sung for a while and thinking, well, what about that theology and how does that compare to what I actually preach? It's an ongoing matter of, I think this is a generosity of spirit, is to be able to acknowledge that we still have a way to go to figure out how to articulate our love, and articulate both with our words and our lives. So let's stand together one more time and sing our closing song, number 221, Light One Candle.
Light one candle for the Maccabee children, with thanks that their life didn't die. Light one candle for the pain they endured when their right to exist was denied. Light one candle for the terrible sacrifice justice and freedom demand. Light one candle for the wisdom to know when the peacemaker's time is at hand. Don't let the light go out. It lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out. Let it shine through our love and our tears. Light one candle for the strength that we need to never become our own foe. Light one candle for those who are suffering the pain we learned so long ago. Light one candle for all we believe in, that anger will tear us apart. Light one candle for to bring us together with peace as a song in our heart. Don't let the light go out. It's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out. Let it shine through our love and our tears. What is the memory that's valued so highly? We keep it alive in that flame. What's the commitment to those who have died when we cry out they've not died in vain? Have we come this far always believing that justice would soon prevail? But this is the burden and this is the promise, and this is why we will not fail. Don't let the light go out. It's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out. Let it shine through our love and our tears. Don't let the light go out. Let it shine through our love and our tears. Don't let the light go out. Let it shine through our love and our tears.
And please remain standing for our benediction. We'll read together number 251 in the Gray Hymnal. 521, thank you.
Now see, that's support, that's generosity. We're paying attention.
May I be no one's enemy, and may I be the friend of that which is eternal and abides. May I wish for every person's happiness and envy none. May I never rejoice in the ill fortune of one who has wronged me. May I, to the extent of my power, give needful help to all who are in want. May I never fail a friend. May I respect myself. May I always keep tame that which rages within me. May I accustom myself to the gentle and never be angry with others because of circumstances. May I know good people and follow in their footsteps. And let's circle around for freedom. Let's make two circles, one on the outside and one on the inside.